Hey guys, welcome to this Facebook Live. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Ed Paget. I'm the founder of the Scoliosis Correction Protocol. And today we're going to go through some scoliosis exercises. Now, the thing about scoliosis is there's lots of different types. So you might have an S-curve or a C-curve or a reverse C-curve. So it's going to be difficult for me to get your exact curve into these exercises. But where possible, I'm going to tell you which curve this is relevant for. Now, the most common type of scoliosis is actually an idiopathic scoliosis, which develops as a teenager, and that is a reverse S-curve. So most of you, 80% of you, will have a reverse S-curve if you've had scoliosis the whole of your life. If it's come on later in life, it's more likely to be a C-curve, and that's usually in the lumbar area. So that's the sort of more adult onset type scoliosis. So we're going to kind of tackle those. But to start with, what we're going to do is work on some really simple whole body exercises, whole back exercises, because this is where it needs to start. Your back needs to be mobile and your back needs to be strong. It doesn't specifically need to be mobile to correct like a bend or a curve. It just needs to be generally mobile so that you can then later on correct a bend or a curve. Now, if you can't hear me, I think you can comment or something like that. I'm wearing a microphone, hopefully everything's working. I haven't got anyone else in the room with me, so the comments when I'm back here I won't be able to read, but I'll get to them later on the Facebook. Okay, to start with, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the way the pelvis, lower back and upper back work, okay? So I want you to stand with your hands on your hips and then just move your butt forwards and backwards. They're called pelvic tilts. Now, some people have a lot of trouble with this. Some people find this really difficult to do. But just see if you can stick your butt backwards, arch your lower back, and then come back in the other way, get a nice pelvic tilt the other way. Okay, just keep going with that for a little bit. You can bend your knees if that helps. But what I don't want you doing is this. That's kind of a compensation. So just get your pelvis going. Perfect. And now, when your pelvis goes this way, you may notice that your head wants to go forward, right? When your pelvis goes back this way, you may notice that your head wants to go backwards. So that's what we're going to work on here. Let me just read this comment here. Okay. All right, all good. So what we're going to do is take your thumbs like this. You're going to point them forwards, and you're going to turn the thumbs backwards. Bring your shoulder blades in together. Scoliosis, one of the shoulder blades likes to be winged a little bit, so you bring them in together like this. All right, now what's going to happen is my butt's going to want to go backwards like this. So I've got a nice straight back. Okay, my head is nice and straight. If you're up against the wall, you can get your butt mid-back and the back of your head trying to touch. Doesn't matter if your head doesn't touch so much, but tuck your chin in. Now from this position, we're going to go into what we would call like, a bad posture. We're going to turn the hands inwards, let those shoulder blades come apart, let your chin duck out and tuck your pelvis in underneath, okay? So I'm bent forward and then I'm nice and straight. So bend forwards and nice and straight. And what we're essentially doing here is showing the body two ends of this spectrum of movement, like the ends of a bookshelf. We're saying, well, here is perfectly upright posture. Here is bent forward, gravity's winning posture. We want you to hang out in the middle. And so it really kind of gives the muscles and the nervous system some criteria with which to work with, okay? So a few more of these. This is good. Perfect. So my friend Gary Ward from Anatomy in Motion calls these cogs, because the pelvis is like a cog going this way and then the back is like a cog going the other way, and it's a good name for these. Next thing I'm going to work on is the hips, again moving, but rather than going forwards and backwards, they're going to be going left and right. So take a step forward. I'm taking a step forward with my left leg. You can do that with your right leg, and let your hips drop down like this. So as your weight shifts from your back leg to your right leg, your hips are moving like a steering wheel, okay? So just get into that rhythm. I'm going to show you what that looks like from the side. Stepping forward just with one leg. I'm letting my hips get into a little rhythm here. So in the terminology of the Scoliosis Correction Protocol, this is called bottom up, because my head is not moving, but the lower half of me, the bottom half of me, is moving. So I'm actually influencing my spine from the bottom up, okay? Good. Just change legs. So we're just getting those hips to move left and right. This is all general mobility, but it's great for the spine. Think about the spine as it moves in what we call 3 dimensions. It moves forwards and backwards, moves side to side, and it moves in rotation. And if you move the spine in any one of those movements, it will affect the other movements. So you might be saying, well, my spine's bent to the left. Can we not just straighten it up like this? Well, it's not always that simple. But if we move the spine forwards and backwards, it will actually help it get straighter in that what we call the frontal plane. So keep going with this. Keep moving the hips. Nice. Now what we're going to do is add just a slightly different motion to it. We'll go back to the left foot. Just have a little practice again. Okay, so my left hip is coming up, my right hip is dropping down. Now I'm going to actually slide my same side hand, so my left side hand down. But you see my head is remaining completely still. So it's like I've got a book on my head here. That's it. And what we're doing here is we've got the lower back moving one way, we've got the mid back moving another way, and then we've got my neck moving a third way. So there's 3 movements in the side to side plane called the frontal plane. So change sides. We've got some building work in the background that started up. They'll be going for a while. That's it. Just going to shut the door and make it a bit less noisy. Okay, so that was our frontal plane movement. Now we're going to move into the sagittal plane. So again, take your left leg forward, put your hands onto your chest here. I want you to move your pelvis. Now this is like a steering wheel down here, or like the top of a big giant tub. And you're just rotating it left and right, okay? So from the side, I've taken my left leg forward, and I'm just rotating my pelvis like this. Now if any of this causes pain or discomfort, you can slow down the speed at which you're doing it. You can change the distance at which you're moving. For example, if I'm here and it hurts right here, then just don't go so far. Just do a tiny movement. Or just miss this exercise out. It's up to you. And now you should feel some stuff happening in your abdominals here, because this is where the obliques come in to move your pelvis like this. Change sides. Now I'm going to turn the pelvis this way. So I'm driving the leg that's in front, that's the hip that you're pushing forwards. And I find it useful to put my hands on my chest to just really kind of keep the chest area still. Okay, so you should have the idea of just a little bit of movement from the pelvis. So now what we're going to do, we're going to fix the pelvis and move the shoulders. So in my case, left foot forward again. So my pelvis is already rotated a little bit this way. That's okay. Now bring the shoulders back to the middle here. All right, so if I've got a reverse S-curve, for example, I'll have my ribs around my right side scapula pushing backwards just a little bit. And I want to move those ribs forward. So I'm going to put my hands to my chest again, and now I'm going to rotate those ribs forwards whilst holding my pelvis this way. So I'm not letting this happen. I'm just moving my upper body. Now some of you will find this very difficult. And that's because the spine doesn't like to be rotated once it's sort of fixed in one way. Now, if you want to punch this hand forward, you can, and that actually stretches the muscles on the scapula and the shoulders, no problems, or you can just rest them on your chest. It's up to you. Now, the trick here is also to keep the head completely still, because then this is getting movement into the neck that's opposite from the chest. Okay, so we've got pelvis rotated to the right, we've got chest, mid-back thorax rotating to the left, and we've got the head sort of staying still, but relatively rotating to the left. And I'll show you what I mean by that. If I put this forward here, my head is actually looking over my right shoulder, even though my head is not moving. All right, do the same thing on the other side. And you can do this even if you've got that reverse S-curve. This is fine, because this is just general mobility. Pelvis pointing to the left, hands onto the chest, rotate to the right. That's it. Keep the head still. Imagine there's a book on there. Good. Start punching this hand forward if you want. Now if you've got a problem with your shoulder, can't do that, no problems. Take this hand and punch it back. Same kind of thing. This will actually be good for that winging scapula on that right side, because you're going to be pulling those muscles, the lower traps, the rhomboids, those muscles in there, you're pulling them back to get them to be stronger and pull that shoulder blade back into position, and also opening up the front of the shoulder. So it's up to you. You can do both. Okay, good job. So you should be feeling a little bit more mobile in your back. There should be an awakening of what we call the proprioceptors. And your body should be like, okay, this is good. I'm feeling this. All right, next thing we're going to do is go down onto all fours and have gravity influence the back in a different way. Because right now gravity is pushing down on my head and compressing my spine like this. But if I go into an all fours position, gravity is going to be pushing the spine into sort of a U shape. Slightly different, okay? So gravity is going to do a little bit of work for us here and get the spine to this position. Now you might be familiar with what we call the cat-cow. So we're going to go up into this position, arch the back, tuck the pelvis, and then go back down. Again, this is just really getting the spine to work in this forwards, backwards movement, the sagittal plane. Because if it doesn't work like this, it's very hard to start correcting it in the other two planes, which are the main ones for scoliosis. Okay, with regards to breathing here, you can do it both ways. Like you can breathe in this position and then breathe out as you arch up. And breathe in, breathe out. Or you can flip it. Breathe out, breathe in. Some people will be adamant that there's a correct way of doing this, but you know what? The lungs are very, very mobile and flexible within inside your chest. And the more you exercise them in different ways, the better it is for the lungs and the diaphragm. So really, you shouldn't stick to just one way of breathing and moving. You should do as many different ways as breathing as moving as you can, because ultimately that's how we move in real life. You know, when we're reaching under the couch to get something, you're not going to be like, to get it. You're going to be just breathing, right? So any which way. Okay, so this is what we call the sagittal plane, all done. Now we're going to move to the frontal plane. So a lot of you are going to have this, the upper curve is going to have the apex on the right-hand side. So it's going to be sort of a reverse S-shaped curve. So I want you to take your right elbow, I'm just going to spin around here. You're going to take your right elbow out to the side and then turn this down like this, okay? So we're into this position here. Right elbow and head, let your head go as well, coming down to the right. Now this is a direct correction in the frontal plane to your curve. All right, so see how you get on with this. That's good. And we're going to do about 10 of these. It's halfway through. Good. And then you're going to change sides. And the reason you're going to change sides is you want the spine to be mobile in all movements. But here's the interesting thing. When I go this way, yes, I'm making the upper curve worse if I do have a reverse S-curve. But this way, I'm making it better. So actually, you're just going to go in and out. Better, worse. Or other way around. Better, worse. There you go. So it's just about kind of lubricating the joints, getting what we call the synovial fluid, which is the fluid that sits around those joint capsules, getting it all moving and sometimes replaced. This actual movement pumps in and out. And also getting those discs working as well. The discs are the things that sit between the vertebrae, and they have liquid inside. And so we need to get those to be nice and mobile as well. Okay, so that's what we call a top down, because it happened from my head down to my mid-back. Now we're going to do bottom up. This is great for the lower curve in an S curve or that lumbar C curve. So what we're going to do is we're going to take one foot out behind us, nice and straight, and then we're going to waggle it to the opposite side. So if I take my right foot out, I'm moving it towards the left. And this, you can have the sensation of stretching. So I'm pushing my head like this way, and I'm pushing my foot this way whilst doing that. I'm really trying to elongate the spine here and opening up that lower back. Now, some of you might find this painful, so again, slow it down or move in a smaller movement. That's good. And then change sides. We reach away, so you're reaching this way and that way with the foot. As you're just stretching through that lower back. There's a muscle in there called the quadratus lumborum. Another one called the psoas. You may have heard of these muscles. They're the ones that are really getting a nice stretch. And one of those, the quadratus lumborum, the QL, attached to your rib cage. That's why it's important to hold your upper body kind of still when you're doing this as well. Okay, just a couple more here. That's good. All right, so we've done some really good movements through the lower back. And what I'm doing here, I'm just checking the time because we don't want to go for too long. All right, so we've got another 5 or 6 minutes here, okay? So we're going to do a strength exercise for the back now. It's called the founder technique. It comes from a chiropractor called Dr. Eric Goodman. It's a really good one. You can check him out, use this exercise. I really recommend this exercise. Okay, we need to get the hips to hinge. What that means is getting your lower back to be nice and straight and letting the hips slide backwards and forwards like this. So if I'm against the wall, I'd have it maybe 6 inches away and I'll just go back until my butt touches the wall. And I'll be like, oh yep, there I know. I know that I've just moved my pelvis. You can bend your knees just a little bit because it's a bit easier to do with slightly bent knees. And what we're looking for is not bending forward, keeping the back nice and straight, getting into this position. And then you're going to put your hands out in front of you. Push your fingertips together, get some tension through the upper back, through the shoulders. And we're going to stay here and just breathe. And what you'll notice is that your hamstrings here start feeling it a little bit and your lower back starts feeling it. Now, hopefully, your body can tell the difference between muscles working here and joints getting irritated because there is no movement. So think about it. There's no movement. Your back's completely straight. You shouldn't be in any pain, okay? This should just give your muscles sort of something to think about. However, if you have a lot of back pain, what can happen is the brain sort of has a microscope down on the lower back and it says, I'm getting some information from the lower back here. We don't exercise it much, so it's got to be pain. So you actually might interpret this as pain. If that's true for you, just come back out of it like this. You can come out of it anyway, actually. Relax just a little bit. The pain should subside. And then just try it again. And just go for 5, 6 seconds at a time. But keep doing it until you don't have any pain in that movement and you can just feel the muscles working. That's a great way to get that mind-body connection back. Okay, so that's the founder technique into this position. All right, last few things now. We're going to get very specific for an S-curve, a reverse S-curve, sorry. All right, so imagine you've got your upper back is bent this way just a little bit, and your ribs on my right-hand side here are pointing out like this, just a little bit, okay? They're rotating back towards you. So I'm going to take my right hand, and I'm going to go forwards with my right hand. I'm going to push those ribs forward on that right-hand side, and I'm going to hold onto the wall, okay? Then I'm going to take my left hand up, put it onto the side of my head, and I'm going to lean down to the right. This is opening up this tight side of the curve, okay? So I'm opening up the tight side of the curve like this. And I'm strengthening the muscles down here on the right side that are actually going to pull me down into this position, okay? So everyone, right hand forward. If you have a thoracic reverse C curve or reverse S curve, and you're going to be leaning this way, okay? If you haven't got one of these, you could just repeat the founder technique that we just did. Now here it's crucial to get the ear moving, to get the head moving. And it's also crucial not to move your hips. So a lot of people move their hips, which is what we call a compensation or a bailout. And if that happens, then you just need to sit down and do these movements sitting to start with. You can maybe even reach this hand up once you've got the hang of it with your head. Okay, perfect. That's a little exercise to start opening up that curve. Do the same thing for the lower back now. So if I have a reverse S curve, my top curve will be sitting like this, my bottom curve will be sitting like this, so it will look like a C shape. So this is for people with a lumbar C-shaped curve as well. I want you to take this side and we're going to bring it down. Just going to check out some of these comments. Okay, all good. Hi Angela, how you doing? Okay, so we're pushing this down this way, all right? So hands on the wall, doesn't really matter where they are. If you do have a reverse S shape, just bring the left hand up just a little bit. Then we're going to take this right foot and we're going to reach it down behind us like this and then come back. So my hip is dropping down. You can see how that's opening up that tight side of the curve and it's coming back. Drop that foot down and then come back. Drop it down, come back. It's nice. Good. Now, if you have a lumbar curve and it's the opposite, so if your lumbar, keep going with that, but if your lumbar curve is this way around, is a reverse S shape, you'll want to open up the left side. So we're going to do that one now, okay? That's perfect. So we're just dropping and driving that leg through, opening up the pelvis here, dropping this hip down. You can put one hand on the hip if you want to guide you. Now this leg, as it comes backwards, I'm just bending my standing leg just a little bit so I have some room there. I'm trying to keep everything relatively straight going this way, trying not to twist the pelvis too much. Okay, a couple more here. Perfect. Okay guys, we've taken the back through three-dimensional, what we call cogs, three-dimensional all fours. We've given it some strength training and we've done some specific scoliosis correction. So that's a lot of work, surprisingly, in such a short time. So I'm going to put this video up on YouTube. I think it's going to be here on the Scoliosis Correction Protocol page. Come back, check it out again. Use this as a little warm-up in the mornings to get your joints all kind of lubricated, to get the discs pumping a little bit more, getting that water inside the discs moving around a little bit, and start to correct your scoliosis. It's been fun having you here, and I hope you've enjoyed it. All right, so I'm just going to, I guess I press stop now.